Welcome to Mahabubabad Education YouTube channel. This is Girija, School Assistant, Bioscience, ZPHS, Kuravi, Mahabubabad District. Today our topic is in the 9th class Biology, 3rd chapter, Animal Tissue. And in the previous lesson we have learned about the plant tissue. So like similarly animals are also having tissue? Yes. Why do we need these different types of tissues? Means to perform the different functions in our body, we need different types of tissues. And these tissues, what is the tissue? Tissue is a group of cells which are similar in structure and perform similar functions. So these tissues, according to their sizes and shapes and their locations, there are major 4 types of animal tissues. And we will read here. The first tissue is called as epithelial tissue, and the second one is connective tissue, and muscular tissue, and nervous tissue. And we will see generally what these 4 types of tissues perform. What are the functions of these 4 tissues? Epithelial tissue. Here we see that epithelial. Epi means outer. Thelia means tissue. So we know that epithelial means outermost layer of the body or outermost part of all the organs inside our body. So this epithelial tissue protects and they they perform some duties like diffusion, absorption, and likewise. And here the second tissue, connective tissue, we know like this. Connect means they connect each other. Who connects? Which parts connects? The bones, the muscles, and the blood is also a connective tissue. It means the connection between 2 organs or 2 material or 2 something like that. And the third tissue is called as muscular tissue. This tissue is useful for the movement of organs or our body. And this nervous tissue, it helps in transmission. That means it responds to the stimulus. So these are the general functions of the 4 major tissues. And later we will do with all this. First of all, we will go to the epithelial tissue. And this epithelial tissue, as I told you earlier, this tissue is a covering layer of all the body parts. And outermost layer, that is skin, the covering of the skin also, and it covers and it is a lining all about the and inside the organs also. And it separates the parts from each other. And it transports some substances into and outside the organs and also the body. And this is the epithelial tissue. They are very thin, they are very flexible, and they are soft also. According to the layers, according to their function, there are 3 types of epithelial tissue. Again, first one is squamous tissue and cuboidal tissue. Third one is columnar tissue. And we will go through one by one. And according to the layer, according to the layers, again the squamous tissue is divided into 2. One is simple squamous epithelial tissue. It means these tissues are very simple. They are very one-liner, single-layered tissue. They have only one line of tissue. Here we see only one line of tissue. They are very simple tissues. And where is this tissue located? They are located in blood vessels and alveoli of the lungs. And what is the function of this tissue? This tissue helps in protection. As we know as epithelial tissues give the protection to outer part of the body and also as well as inner organs of the body. And protection and diffusion. We mean it as diffusion means it allows and here the blood vessels through the diffusion blood, so many parts are like food, wastages, enzymes, hormones, these will diffuse into the blood vessel and gets for different parts. And as well as here, alveoli of the lungs, here the gaseous exchange occurs by the process called diffusion. So in the blood vessel and alveoli of the lungs, there are simple squamous tissue, epithelial tissue are located. And the second type of squamous tissue is stratified squamous epithelial tissue. It means as here simple tissue and here multi-layered. There are many layered tissue. You see here, there are many layers. So this, where there are many layers in our body, where they should be protected very strong. It means they are in the skin. Our skin has many layered stratified squamous tissue because we get wound or burn sometimes, and this tissue protects us from that situations. And the location of this stratified squamous tissue, epithelial tissue, is lining of the mouth. In earlier classes, we have done an experiment activity on the lining of the mouth. Cheek cells, we have observed the cheek cells. If we scratch our inner part of the mouth, we can observe the tissue, this tissue, stratified squamous epithelial tissue. And this is located in lining of the mouth and our esophagus. It is called as food pipe, and also on our skin. Now, just now I told that it is lined all upon over our skin. And next one is cuboidal tissue. As it names as cuboid, cube. So these tissues are in the shape of cubes. See here, they are in the shape of cubes. And these cubes, where are these located in our body? These are located in the lining of kidney tubules and ducts of salivary glands and sweat glands. And this the function of cuboidal tissue are protection, diffusion and secretion. Whereas we know that lining of kidney tubules means kidney excretes the urine, and this helps, cuboidal tissue helps this secretion. And ducts of salivary glands, we know that salivary glands secrete saliva. Okay, so this secretion is also helped by this cuboidal tissue. And sweat glands, and these are in tear glands and sweat glands, saliva, all these parts, this cuboidal tissue is there, and it helps in the secretion and also protection of the organs or parts. And there are some special cuboidal tissues called glandular tissue. And what is this glandular tissue? And glandular tissue means sometimes this cuboidal tissue in some parts gets or folds inside like this. They go on folds, they are inside the tissue to make a multicellular gland. We know that in our body there are so many glands, endocrine and exocrine glands. They secrete hormone and enzymes also, like sweat glands and pituitary gland and pancreas, liver, all these glands. So these cuboidal tissue, when in such places where the glands are formed, these tissues are called as glandular tissue. And last tissue, fourth tissue is called as columnar tissue. You know that what is the column? Column means they are like a cylinders or lines. So they are called as columnar tissue. And where these tissue are located? They are located in the inner linings of stomach and intestine. We know that in the inner lining of stomach secretes some acids, gases, and it secretes also the enzymes, and intestine also secrete the intestinal juice and digest the food. This is the secretion. So the functions are absorption as well as protection, they absorbs and secretes also. Where the absorption and secretion process are performing, there are the columnar tissue. And now where are the columnar tissue? For example, in the inner lining of stomach, so that there the enzymes are secreted and some food is digested. And in the intestine, small intestine also secretes some juices, some intestinal juices, and after the digestion of the food, the digested food is absorbed by the villi. It means villi are microstructures found in the intestine. They absorb the digested food and it transports it into the blood. So here these columnar tissues, functions of these tissues are protecting as well as protecting and absorbing and secretion. These are all the functions of this tissue, and this tissue is located in the lining of the stomach and intestine also. And in the special cases, and some other special tissue is there in the columnar tissue, they are called as ciliated tissue. It means ciliate. In some places this columnar tissue has a hair-like structure like this. They are called as cilia. And what do this cilia do? Cilia, it absorbs the material substances. It helps to move the substances through and from and to some parts, and it receives and it transports. It helps to transport or movement of the substances in the organ. So today, children, we have learned there are 4 types of animal tissues: epithelial tissue, connective tissue, muscular tissue and nervous tissue. But today we have completed only one type of tissue, that is epithelial tissue. This tissue is mainly called as protective tissue. It is not only protecting the outer parts and the inner parts of the organs, it maintains the balance of the body, and it do the function of diffusion, absorption, secretion, and also sometimes movement of the body, and also it is used for the transportation also. And epithelial tissue has squamous tissue, cuboidal tissue, columnar tissue. Again, according to the layers, they are simple squamous tissue and stratified squamous tissue. Later on, in the next video, we will go through these tissues: connective tissue, muscular tissue and nervous tissue. Thank you.